This video will show you how to report on Target E using the online Sendai Framework Monitor system. Target E aims to substantially increase the number of countries with national and local disaster risk reduction strategies by 2020. Your country may call a DRR strategy by something else, such as a framework or a plan. To begin reporting, make sure you have selected the correct reporting year. The year should reflect the year of the data and not the year that you are inputting data. Make sure that the reporting year is correct every time you log into the system, as the selected year may not reset. Indicator E1 is a compound of ratings that you make on your country's achievements on implementing the different elements for a national DRR strategy outlined in E1A. These ratings are made against 10 core elements of DRR strategies. The 10 requirements ask you to assess if your national DRR strategy has different timescales, with targets, indicators, and timeframes, has aims at preventing the creation of risk, has aims at reducing existing risk, has aims at strengthening economic, social, health, and environmental resilience, address the recommendations of Priority 1, Priority 2, Priority 3, and Priority 4, promote policy coherence and compliance, notably with SDGs and the Paris Agreement, and has mechanisms to follow up, periodically assess, and publicly report on progress. You can read about each core requirement in detail in the TGN for Target E. The 10 core requirements are weighted equally by assigning 10% or 0.1 to each requirement, so no requirement is more important than another. The rating scale for each requirement is scored from 0 to 1 and is described in more detail in the technical guidance notes. A rating of 1 indicates comprehensive implementation and is the full score for the requirement. 0.75 is for substantial implementation, where additional progress is required. 0.5 is moderate implementation, neither comprehensive nor substantial. 0.25 is limited implementation, and 0 is if there is no implementation or no existence. In some instances, a score of 0 is unavoidable. For example, Requirement 9 asks if your national strategy promotes policy coherence and compliance, notably with the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. However, if your strategy was written before 2015, when the SDGs and Paris Agreement were not agreed to, then your score will probably be 0 for this requirement. You are discouraged from giving yourself a full score of 1 unless you believe your strategy does fully implement that requirement comprehensively. Use the scroll bar to adjust your ratings, and the right-hand column will show you the value you have selected between 0 and 1 for each requirement. It is understandable if you do not feel comfortable giving these ratings without consulting other government partners. You are encouraged to decide on ratings in consultation with others. Some countries have decided that they wish to have a national committee determine these ratings. Once you have entered ratings for all 10 core requirements, submit Indicator E1A for validation. Indicator E2 is the percentage of local governments that have adopted and implemented local DRR strategies in line with national strategies. Again, your country may call these local strategies as something else, like frameworks or plans. E2 is calculated based on the number of local governments with local DRR strategies in line with national strategies and total number of local governments inputted into E2A. Local government is defined as a form of subnational public administration with responsibility for DRR. The level of local government that a country measures is determined by the country. For example, it may make sense for smaller countries to measure from the village level, while it may be practical for larger countries to measure at the municipality, town council, city council, or district level. Whichever level you decide, it should not be too high of a level, but close enough to local authority level for the strategy to have a local impact. If your country has a total number of 50 local governments, enter 50 here. Of these, if 15 local governments have adopted and implemented local DRR strategies in line with national strategies, enter this number here. Once you have inputted data for E2A, click Submit Indicator E2A for validation. If you have made a mistake, you can click Reopen Indicator to make any changes, then click Resubmit.